Hello, everyone. This is Joe from Anime Sickos. You are listening to Anime Sickos, the podcast for geniuses, the podcast about the 4 pillars of despair: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I'm, of course, joined by my great co-host.
Me. I'm the great co-host. I'm Tom, also an anime sicko. Joe, I feel like there's a strange energy in the big quotes studio. Yeah, obviously we can't leave our houses ever, but something seems unusual. Like, this isn't a normal episode, is it? This isn't just us two, is it?
No, it's a Guesto episode +2. I would like to reintroduce Sicko Scientist John, one of our most downloaded episodes, when we wasted his time by asking him if anime is real, and the general conclusion was like mostly like 80%.
When you said that a spirit bomb had the power of just over one foe, that's like one of the formative experiences of my life.
So, John, how are you?
Well, now that you pumped me up that way, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm doing quite well in pandemic-adjusted terms.
That's good. And we don't just have John. We are also joined by Mike Hasier, his wife. How are you?
I'm doing very well, also in pandemic-adjusted terms.
So, John already did the awful question where we ask him, are you an anime sicko? So he doesn't have to do that again. Unfortunately, you have to. So I will pose the question to you. And as we've established, there are no right or wrong answers, except for all the bad ones that past guests have done. So what I'm saying here is try your best. Mike, are you an anime sicko?
I would say yes. Otherwise, I would not be on this show right now. Although
That's not necessarily true.
Well, it's true. Also, I feel that perhaps the term anime sicko is a title that one should not self-apply, kind of like a knighthood or something. Like, other people have to describe you as an anime sicko. I mean, I'm going to humbly say that, yes, I am a sicko, but in the end, I would say the judgment ball is firmly in your court.
Why would you say that? I think people put a lot more sort of significance on this made-up fucking bullshit term than it really warrants.
Okay, fine, I am.
My wife is 100% an anime sicko.
Yeah, I am.
And that is a real wife guy move for me to say that for her while she's struggling with this with you.
I'm not struggling. I'm trying to be humble. I mean, I basically invited myself onto the show.
And it worked. It was that's how people get rich, though, is to just have confidence and say, I work here now.
I also really appreciate that you're setting wife precedent on the show here today. As a fellow wife guy, this is incredible content to me.
It's a wife episode and a science episode, so you get both of those energies combined.
So, I am a graphic designer and a photographer, according to the expensive piece of paper that's still in its original envelope somewhere in the closet behind me. Day to day, though, I am a quarantined office monkey in the service of the Great Valley of Silicon. Well, at least I was until recently. Just call me a pineapple, gentlemen, because I just signed up for the dole.
Oh man, everyone is we talk about this all the time, how every day I start my fake job and I'm like, I've been chosen to continue living, like I shouldn't complain, like people have decided that I'm worth continuing to eat. So I try not to think about that too much.
Yeah, I have a good recruiter who's got my back, so I don't expect this to remain the situation for too long. I was actually one of the last people let go, so yeah, I was one of the MVP cogs.
Oh. Hell yes. Did you get to turn out the lights on the way out?
No, because I've been working from home since March.
Yeah, we've been taking shit serious here in Santa Clara County. Like, we were, like, on track to be New York until they were like, yeah, so no one's doing this right now, but everybody stay the fuck at home.
Yeah, they told us, get your laptops, get your shit, go the fuck home.
Oh, that's right. I had to drive you to pick up your laptop because I was already on work from home.
Yeah.
When you got the order to that you were going to be work from home.
Mm-hmm. And then I said, dear husband, you are going to drive me because I don't feel like doing it.
And I did it because I am a continued married person.
Yeah, you have the wife guy powers. These are the things you must do.
Mike, I want to ask you. You've prepared a list of anime that you want to discuss. We'll do that later in the app. But can you give us sort of a brief version of maybe your sicko origin, stuff you watched initially when you made the horrible choice to consume cartoons from the East?
Yes, I would say that my origin story began in the late 1980s, early 1990s. It began with the series The Flying House and Superbook Bible Stories, which were both done by the same animation studio, Tatsunoko Productions. Well, the first series, The Flying House, was essentially a Japanese Doctor Who for children. It featured a time machine, which was the eponymous flying house. There was cute kids, a sentient robot, and a scientist type guy.
We've never spoken about this. How did you not tell me about this?
No, I've told you, but you have the memory of a goldfish.
Betrayed by my own brain.
So the second one, when you said Bible, you meant the Bible, or is there a different one I don't know about?
Well, commonly known as the Holy Bible, but yes, that is the Bible that Superbook Bible Stories refers to. It is essentially Judeo-Christian stories as seen through the eyes of Japan.
No, what I was really hoping you would say when you told me that the title was Superbook Bible Stories, that it was a story about a super book, specifically a copy of the Bible, that became alive, and it had adventures which were then told in the titular stories. But no, that's not the case.
I feel like Jesus just has Nen, right? That's a pretty... I feel like
he used his Son of Man powers.
Son of Man powers.
Yes, he gave kids seizures long before Pokemon did.
Oh.
When he did like the transmute test to get Nen, his little cup of water just became wine.
Fuck! Oh my god! Oh my god, and yes, and Nen gets more powerful the more harsh a restriction you put on it. So his most powerful ability, he needed to be crucified and died in order to use it. Jesus is a hunter.
Yeah,
Yes, card-carrying member of the Hunter Association.
Yes, those two were the tip of the iceberg, the gateway drugs, as it were. I got into harder stuff as the 90s wore on, with Sailor Moon, a really, really terrible addiction to Tenchi Muyo, and essentially anything that was on Cartoon Network when I was in middle school. And then it just got worse from high school and college onward.
I remember watching Tenchi Muyo, and in retrospect, it's like a harem thing, and because it was on Cartoon Network, like, the saucy stuff was cut out, right? So it was really just about a guy hanging out with a bunch of ladies, and then nothing happens.
Well, there was also a really cute cat-rabbit creature called a cabbit. And that was really what drew me in. I didn't really care about the weird adventures of the harem. They had a really fucking cute pet.
The cabbit turned into a spaceship, right? Or
yes, that's what made it cute.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear that wasn't
not just the fact that it was a cat and a rabbit hybrid.
Something.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you, when you saw Super Bible Stories, Unbelieving God, He is Our Friend, or whatever the name was, like, what were the aesthetics that, like, gripped your young brain and did not let go?
Yeah. Because hearing that you stuck with anime through high school and college is the sign of a diseased sicko brain. So
I've never denied having a sicko brain. I mean, my shrinks can tell you that.
So what was the thing that gripped you about it that you didn't get in other media?
Well, if you just like look up clips of The Flying House, it's very different from the diet of Warner Brothers and Disney stuff that I had been fed since birth. And I remember these shows being on maybe Channel 50. I do remember seeing them in Sunday school as well, but
oh man,
yeah.
The fact that you got anime in Sunday school feels bad to me. That's a huge error.
I mean, there were a finite number of Davy and Goliath episodes on tape, so, you know.
And this was like
They had to
pre.
pad out the days somehow.
It feels to me like you were sent to like a dare program, and then like the last half hour, they're like, well, we don't have any more curriculum, so let's all drink beer.
That's accurate.
No, they tried to make it fun.
So, Mike, I got a question that I want to ask you. You and John have been together for, if I've been informed correctly, high school. So you really should be able to know this by now. You should have a very definitive answer and ways to back it up. And here's the question. Which of the two of you is more of an anime sicko?
Ooh.
I would say that we are equally sicko, but in different ways.
How so?
Well, I was just going to let you run with that, because I think that that's the most generous answer I could get.
Like, do you guys split up the subject matter? He's the robot guy?
No, I wouldn't say it's a matter of different tastes. We just express our weebness differently.
But one of us has watched Gurren Lagann more than the other, and it is definitely not me.
Also, I would like to point out that I can actually draw.
Fuck. That's a strong point.
Yeah, so I can't draw anything. It's a huge... Every time I try to teach myself, like, I look at a YouTube video, and it's like, here's how you draw an owl, and then, they draw a circle, and then 30 seconds later, I'm like, fuck, they drew a second circle.
Circles are hard.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
so I gotta
have
ask...
to draw them all the time when people want to see pictures of atoms, and it sucks.
So, like, as someone who is an illustrator and a graphic artist...
And photographer, thank you.
Yes, and photographer. So what did anime sort of do for that passion of yours? Because I know there's a lot of people who draw, and their early anime interest definitely fed into their interest in illustration.
It really gave me other design choices to explore because, like I said, I'd been fed, the standard issue Western animation canon of, Looney Tunes, Disney, UPA, Tom and Jerry, things like that. So that was my bread and butter. That is what started me on my artist's journey. But anime and manga opened up a different world for me.
That's awesome.
I think the thing is that, like, Western animation doesn't give you an option. There's no character that when you turn 13, you can draw as half that character and half yourself with a goth haircut and then, like, write your name in gothic type and have it be badass. Like, you can't make a self-insert Bugs Bunny with, like, the Peter Parker Spider-Man 3 haircut and be proud of that. But you could draw a Sasuke that looks like you.
I'm imagining, like, a teen doodling himself as Yosemite Sam, just being like, I aspire to have facial hair like this. This is my idea of masculinity, having two guns.
I hate varmints.
Although I'm sure somewhere on the internet there is a sexy Yosemite Sam.
Do we not all hate varmints?
I hates that rabbit.
Yeah, varmint as a term has a lot of stank on it. It's not a neutral term.
All right, motherfuckers, we got the sicko scientist in the house. We're not going to make you fucking wait for it. You know what you're here for. We're going to ask him anime science and ask him if it's real. And if he says yes, we're going to hoot. And if he says no, we're going to be like, but why? So let me just get right the fuck to it. We have a list of questions. You've seen them, but we're going to ask them again as if you're hearing them from the first time.
When we prepared these questions, I asked Tom, and he gave me like 30 of them, and they were all One Piece. And I had to be like, all right, there are other shows.
Are there?
And the answer is no, because I think most of our questions are still One Piece. So I lost that fight.
Yeah. So the first question that I got to ask you about is, it's about One Piece. There is a character in One Piece, Sanji, the horny kicking chef who loves to kick and do sexual assault. He, at one point, trains at kicking for 2 entire years. And he becomes so good at kicking that he unlocks a new special kicking ability called Skywalk, where he kicks down so hard that he can fly. It just looks like he's walking up. How could this be? How hard would you have to kick to do this? And I just want to, behind the curtain, you wrote down little answers for these, I guess just to have prep in the document. And I love that just the first fucking line that you wrote is, normal biomechanics will prevent this in most situations. Like, you think?
Yeah, well, so the thing about normal biomechanics is, like, the way that you run. Like, this is, like, where, by being really dumb, whoever wrote One Piece has, like, inadvertently, like, become smart again.
You'll find that trend comes up a lot in One Piece.
So, you sent me a YouTube video of this power being used, which it was way dumber than I could have imagined.
It looks like shit. I want to be clear. Yeah, he looks like a JPEG being dragged upward. It's not good.
But, like, I was like, oh, this dude just, like, runs on air, like, you know, like Sonic the Hedgehog style, where he just, like, is running on air, or, like, Roadrunner or whatever. Like, that's dumb and is not happening. And the reason why this happens is because what you need to do to run on air is you need to physically push the air fast enough, right, that it behaves as though it were a solid, so that you can generate thrust against it. Obviously, if you have wings or whatever, you can generate lift other ways, but this is, like, the brute force, like, this is the rocketry of getting up, right? We're going to blow something up underneath me to go up more. In this case, rather than blowing something up, you're just pushing the air so much that it compacts and, like, basically explodes you up. Now, normally when you run, everything moves faster, right? Your legs are moving faster, like, your motion changes, but everything is doing stuff faster. So if you think about it, if you were to try to run in this way, like, if you could run at, like, supersonic or hypersonic speeds, right? If you could move your legs that fast, they would be compressing the air in front of and behind them and above and below them, and you wouldn't go anywhere. You just make a lot of noise, right?
Uh-huh.
So, but what we see in the video is him slowly moving his leg up and then kicking down really hard with a, like, whip-cracking gunshot sound, which, if you had this power, would be kind of how you'd have to do that. You'd have to slowly move your leg up so that the air behaved as a normal fluid, and that an incompressible fluid. And then you'd have to move your leg down so fast that it compressed the air molecules so that they didn't have time to get out of the way and behaved like a solid and pushed you up against the air resistance of your body and gravity. And so, no, this is not possible. This is why you use wings for heavier than air flight. Because you'd need basically an infinite power source to move in this way, right? Like, every time you wanted to move a slight distance up, you'd have to generate your entire body mass in energy, basically, to offset the effect of gravity. And that's why rockets are really expensive, because we fill them with explosives to move very tiny masses very, very high, right?
I have two quick things. One, he does have an infinite source of energy. It's cigarettes. He's always smoking. And he looks very cool all the time. And the other thing is, you had mentioned when you're running, and in order to run on air, you'd have to be moving at an incomprehensible speed. I cannot reiterate enough that in the video, he steps with no urgency.
Yeah, that's where it breaks down a little.
You have to keep in mind that this is an anime where they have to get an episode out every week, and having someone go fast in any sense means that you have to draw a lot of pictures, and they're not going to fucking do that. They can't do that.
Yeah, even when he's just, like, hanging out in the air, like, not stomping, he just is, like, got feather fall cast on him or something, so that probably helps.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. So basically what you're saying is, in order for Sanji to be able to do that, he's got his form down right, but he would need to use amounts of energy that are physically impossible to generate.
Yeah, he would have to be, like,
body.
continuously eating hamburgers, or, again, the cigarettes maybe he converts that direct combustion into thrust.
Also, horniness. He has an infinite stash of horniness that fuels him.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst part about the character, and yet it is what makes him so powerful. It's also funny because when he is just floating in air and not moving, he's also explaining how his kick works, which is hysterical to me because he's not doing it He's not doing a move that he's explaining. He's just floating now.
The only thing is, the closest we can get right now is something like the Bell Aerospace rocket belt, which, if you're a James Bond fan, they used in, I think it was Thunderball, as the method of, like, going up. And they actually used the thing. You can fly about the height that you see Sanji get to for about, like, a minute.
You certainly just can't, like, chill then.
Yeah, no, like, and so everything that keeps it in the air longer than, some number of seconds is, like, Hollywood movie magic.
Okay. I accept this answer, but it's time to ask more One Piece science questions. I got more. So, the next two are going to sort of be related. They're going to be related to Luffy's first two power-ups and how much they'd actually work. Now, I've asked you one of these questions personally for my own use off mic, but I'm going to ask it again on mic. But before we get to that, I have to talk about his first power-up, which is Gear 2. Now, this is where Luffy uses his rubber powers, and he physically stretches out all of his blood vessels to be just bigger, and he then uses his rubber powers to make his heart beat faster, and because his blood vessels are huge now, a shit ton more blood than usual gets circulated throughout his body and at a faster speed. Now, what this does is it makes him super strong and fast, and he kicks ass, and we love it. Would this happen, or would this just kill you? It seems like it would just kill you.
It would just kill you. Like, there is a very dynamic balance between pressure on the outside of you and pressure on the inside of you, and high blood pressure is, like, a chronic bad condition for a variety of reasons, and if you had, like, enough blood pressure inside you that you belong in a Tarantino movie, like, you would just start exploding blood everywhere when you, like, cut yourself or, like, sneezed wrong. So yeah, it would probably just kill you.
What he's doing is basically doping, though, right?
Yeah, like, you could maybe, like, a milder version of this would make you, like, a little bit stronger, right? Like, your ability to get oxygen to and from your cells, like, that's a really important thing, especially for endurance sports, right? Is, like, your blood's ability to carry oxygen and deliver it to the muscles where it's needed so they can keep operating at peak performance for longer. But that's also why doping is bad for you long term, because it fucks up all your shit because there's this delicate balance.
But on the other hand, drugs are cool.
Drugs are cool.
Yeah, I haven't read that much One Piece. Are there drugs in it?
Yeah, there's drugs. They tend to be presented as uncool, which is like one of the weaknesses of the series. I guess cigarettes are a type of drug that's presented as extremely cool, but they're a soft drug to me.
Tobacco fruit.
Yeah, all I know about One Piece comes from my former slave job at a used bookstore. So I used to clearance One Piece a lot.
Oh man, I want them cheap One Pieces.
The fact that someone was not buying One Piece and it was cheap, I'm sure fills Tom with, like, dread.
I'm just fucking sickened by it. It's no good.
But then again, buying manga for $3 is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I am sickened both that it happened and that I wasn't there to take advantage.
I didn't know who you were. I would have called you.
That's true.
Yeah, when you were throwing them in the dumpster.
Yeah.
No. Oh, okay. But John, I hear you that this would just kill you. But, like, what if you were a rubber man and your skin and blood vessels were less susceptible to damage because they were rubbery? Would this be a good idea still,
it would still,
or
like,
no?
kind of blow you up like a balloon, right? Like,
Well, then you would be Stretch Armstrong from Kenner.
Yeah, I mean, that is what Luffy's deal is. Doesn't he, like, do a thing where he blows his hand up and, like, tries to punch
Yes, I'm going to ask you about that next. Actually, let's just go straight into it. That is Luffy's next power-up that he figures out. So he's constantly trying to find out new ways to use his rubbery powers to kick people's asses. Now, he already had Gear 2, which was we discussed where he makes his blood vessels huge and it would just make him die. But he has a new power that he invents where he, for reasons that I don't really know, I think it's just because it looks cool, he can sort of, like, bite into his thumb and blow using air. He can blow air into his bones. And because his bones are rubber bones, they blow up like a big balloon. And so what he does is he sticks his thumb in his mouth and makes his cheeks puff out, and his hand gets fucking enormous. He then punches a guy with a huge hand that's like 20 foot by 20 foot, and kicks their ass. Now, when I initially sent you this question, I'm like, wouldn't that make his punch way weaker?
And I was like, yeah, that's correct. This is like the opposite of the Sanji thing, where they were like so dumb they became smart. They were so almost close. Like if they had just been like, oh yeah, he just fills it up with blood and it's really heavy, right? And now he can move it at the same speed. Like an object that is heavier moving at the same velocity will do more damage, right? But something that's less dense and has more of a broad surface area to spread the damage out over is going to reduce the amount of force delivered over a wider area. This is why you have like an airbag in a car, right? If you hit your steering wheel at 50 miles an hour, you're going to be real sad. But if we can blast out a big bag of air that you can spread your whole face torso over, and if you ever see like people getting airbags deployed on them, it like smooshes kind of all over them in a flat area, much like a larger fist would do when you punch a person, as opposed to something small. This is why we use knives to cut people, right? Same force over a smaller area is stronger and better at liberating people from their mortal coil.
So, like, in execution, this move is like just pushing a bouncy castle at someone.
That is my understanding.
They do. I mean, it is explicitly stated that it's air that's making his hand huge. So yeah, holy shit, what a dumb fuck. Because like even as I read it the first time and was like, oh damn, Luffy, I'm so proud of you. Your hand's huge. I'm just like, wouldn't this like suck ass? Wouldn't this be really bad?
Yeah, it would suck.
He also arrived at this technique by sitting and thinking about it for a long time, and this is like what he came up with.
Oh, so he had time to study for the test. This wasn't like a Goku, what if I do this, and he just does it. This was like we got some time to figure this out, guys. Let's break out the slide rules and really get to it.
No, I'm pretty sure that it was... No, I remember what this was. It was like a desperation move. He had just figured out Gear 2 like a while ago, and it was, for the first time, not working out. And so he's like, wow, shit, what am I going to do? I don't know. I'll make my hand huge. And then he did it, and it worked.
When it shouldn't have. It should have done nothing, and everyone should have laughed at him.
Yeah, he should have lost, and everyone was killed. The Straw Hats all died, and he never became king of the pirates because he did a dumb hand. He should have made his hand smaller.
Yeah, tiny hands.
All right, excellent. I have one more One Piece question, and then Joe has a darker than black question. Here it goes. So, there is a terrible devil fruit that's power is bullshit. I told Joe about this in a previous episode, and he got so mad.
I hate it. It's bad.
It's the op fruit, and its power is that the user can like sort of designate an area where he has total omnipotence over everything and the positioning of all atoms. And one of the things that he can do if you are in that area is he can basically sort of take apart your body at will, but you don't die. Like, he cuts your head off, but you're not bleeding, and you're fine. And your head can still control your body. All the nerve connections and blood vessels are still connected somehow. It's just, I assume, teleportation or, like, quantum tunneling. But that's not what we're going to ask you about, because that's obviously fucked and not true. What we're going to ask you about is he does one thing a lot, the user of this fruit, which is he will remove someone's heart from their body, and he'll hold it in their hand. And then they are sort of forced to do what he says, because if they do a thing that he doesn't like, he'll squeeze their heart, and they'll go, ouchie, ouchie, and then do what he says. Our question is, would that really hurt, or would you die?
All right, so I believe the one-line answer I had to this in my notes is just open cardiac massage, which was what this made me think of immediately. Are either of you familiar with open cardiac massage?
This is my dumb understanding, but if you got a bum ticker, a nice man can open up your chest and give it a good rub, and you're all better.
Oh, a good rub is definitely what the massage part would have you believe. But no, you gotta like fucking juice it. Like you are pumping their heart. You are squeezing it to put blood in their body, to keep them oxygenated and try to resuscitate them, and hopefully they'll keep the oxygen in their system long enough that their heart will start beating again. It used to be a thing before CPR was a thing, and it's still a thing if you're in heart surgery. It's actually super effective to just get in there and Like if it stops beating, there are certain conditions where you can just reach in there and just squeeze it and be like, I'm gonna beat for you for a while, and then it'll start up spontaneously. But if you do this while someone's heart is beating, if there is a pulse, like it's real bad for them, because it's like the heart is trying to beat, but it's not doing it so good, and so now you're just gonna start squeezing and just like fuck up the rhythm, and it's real bad. Not a medical doctor, by the way, but became familiar with this for a variety of reasons that are just related to my innate curiosity. But yeah, so don't do open cardiac massage on people. It will hurt them and maybe kill them, but it will definitely hurt them. So the hurting them thing is accurate.
But if you do hurt them, you can just rip out the heart entirely and then scream, Kalima!
Yeah.
I mean, that is a solution.
You don't have to be that strong to, like, squeeze the heart enough. You don't need to be like Vin Diesel or whatever to, like, get in there.
That was actually my follow-up question, which is, like, how sturdy is a heart? And, like, what is the...
It's made of muscle. So you've handled steak, right? It's like a piece of meat. Like it's tough. Like you obviously, like, Vin Diesel will have an easier time than I would squeezing it. But if you really had to do it, you could get.
He could pay somebody else to squeeze it for him.
Yeah, it's a task rabbit.
Yeah.
The
strongest man on the planet, Vin Diesel.
Yeah, of course. We all know.
I'm always thinking of Vin. It's because there was that XXX clock that I bought for my mom at the Destiny City Flea Market, and every time I go into the guest room, there's Vin Diesel is like buff and staring at me.
Are his arms the arms of the clock?
No, that would be way better. It's just him, like, with his arms crossed, like leaning on the car for like that GTO that's from the movie.
We can get a picture of it for you.
Please do.
Oh my God, yes. We need episode art, and that's it. Okay, have either of you guys watched Darker Than Black?
No, I have not.
Okay, I recommend it. I've only seen the first season, but what I saw was good. Anyway, in this, everyone has horrible powers because of a star with bad vibes makes you get powers. It's whatever, it doesn't matter. In it, there is a woman who is an opera singer, and her power is basically... She has supersonic abilities, which she opens her mouth really wide and she starts yelling, and then she can change the sonic volume or frequency or whatever the correct term is, and just start shattering objects. And typically how she uses it is she just yells at people and then their hearts either stop or explode. I know you can do real goofy stuff with sound waves, so my question is, like, how within the realm of possibility is that? And also, do you think the CIA has a heart attack gun?
I do not think the CIA has a heart attack gun, but I'm sure that they're working on it. Right? Like, I'm sure there are dudes playing around with that. But no, resonance is kind of the phenomenon we're looking at here, where if you vibrate something at what's called its natural frequency, it will shake much more in response to the initial excitation than you would expect, because it is naturally susceptible. It like if you ever whack something with a hammer, it makes a noise, right? It'll make a thud or a ring.
Not in space.
Yeah, not in space. No one can hear you scream in space. No sound in space.
Sam Effort didn't think about
We are
space.
anti-sound in space on this podcast, at least while I'm here. But essentially, whenever that ringing you hear is the natural frequency. If you were to put it on an oscilloscope, and if you were to play that at the object, right, if you were to record it and play it back on a loudspeaker, it would make the object shake rather violently, especially at higher amplitudes. And so resonance is a real thing, and it's a real problem. I linked you guys to like a Vice article called When Resonance Attacks that has a bunch of fun structural collapses. Well, fun because we all like watching things fall apart and have a darkness in us. Not fun because it probably killed people. But resonance is a real engineering concern when especially designing large structures, because long members have a variety of different frequencies you need to consider. Whereas shorter things, you have to vibrate them very, very quickly. And also higher frequencies are harder to put more energy into because each little wavelet carries less energy than one big back and forth swing. So it's harder to get things going. That said, tuning forks are a household, or I guess if you're a piano tuner or a musician, example of this behavior where you can shake something and something else will shake in response if you are shaking it the right way. In this case, shaking is just a metaphor for sound. Sound and shaking are the same thing to first order. There are some details with phonons and things, but we don't need to go into that here. But yeah, sonic weapons are something people have often worked with, and also like psychological versions of sonic weapons. One of the classes I took on analog electronics, one of the things you could build for your final project was an infrasound generator. And you knew it was working because you would just feel uncomfortable while it was on. There are certain frequencies below like 10 hertz that if you just play them, it makes you feel uneasy, and nobody really knows why, what the deal with that is. There's a lot of psychological stuff with the bones in your inner ear, and a lot of it is like not studied, but it definitely made your TA feel uncomfortable when you got the circuit working. I can confirm this.
So the worse you felt, like the higher your grade was?
I mean, that would be how I would grade it. This is people built all kinds of, like I built a taser for my final project, and then people were no longer allowed to build tasers for their final project after that year.
Hell yeah.
People built a lot of weird stuff. Someone built like a cellular automaton. Someone built their very own Class D audio amplifier using only resistors, which is insane. Like resistors plus transistors. They had to like do crazy component matching, which involved them digging through several bins of precision resistors to find two that were perfectly matched for each of the input stages. All kinds of wild stuff was going on in this electronics class. It definitely felt like it should have been illegal in hindsight.
I can't imagine trying that hard at school ever. So, like, I not only am I not smart enough to make a killing sound, but also that's a lot of work. So, those were sort of like the quick ones that were like, please entertain our dumb inquiries. We have one that you have really launched into in greater detail as we plan this. So I'm going to just ask you the question as it was originally written. John, every day we wake up and Gundams are not real. However, you informed us that if we had access to the vacuum of space, we could manufacture insane metals. Can you explain how you could use space to make Gundamanium and how to make huge robots with cool swords?
Yeah, so my interaction with Gundam lore is very bad, I'm sure, from the fandom's point of view, in that I am only familiar with Gundam Wing, which is, I guess, like knowing about Boruto and knowing nothing about anything else to do with Naruto.
That would be incredibly awesome. That person kicks ass.
That's a very powerful
So I guess
person.
I kick ass, apparently. But yeah, no, there's a lot of... so the thing that's cool about Gundam Wing is the Gundams are basically built by freedom fighters, terrorists, you know, whatever you want to call about. But basically, Earth is like an imperium that is like in decay and full of infighting and is screwing over their space colonies because colonialism. And this is very rad and cool because in space you can make this metal called Gundanium that has all these superior properties. It's tougher, it's stronger, it's lighter. It reflects lasers and shit, and it's just awesome. And you make your giant robot that stomps giant robots. The cool thing about this in real life is that space manufacture has a lot of interesting upsides for metals and materials processing. Right now, some of the strongest metals we make on Earth, such as nickel-based superalloys or titanium alloys, require very, very high vacuum to attain their true properties. They're very, very sensitive to oxygen and impurities introduced from the atmosphere during processing. And so on Earth, we make these vacuums that are, by comparison to the vacuum of space, very shitty. Like not even close. Like space is way more empty than the highest vacuum we make on Earth. But we do good enough that we can melt the material using something called vacuum induction melting, where we use electric current to melt the metal, and then it'll solidify and there'll be slag on top. And then we'll do something called vacuum arc remelting, where you basically grab that chunk of metal and make it like a giant welding rod and just pump a bunch of high potential, high voltage into it, and then use the fact that it's arcing to another surface. Like you bring it close to another surface, and the arcing will melt the bottom of the metal where the good stuff is, and the top of the metal will stay out of the ingots that you're making. And then you turn that into rockets and spacecraft and all sorts of fun stuff that we use. I'm sure a bunch of mall ninja shit. that's got, titanium in it, or is some sort of condensed matter processed metal. But having access to extreme vacuum makes all of that a lot easier. Also, space is really cold, so we can play with things like cryometallurgy. If you go on like Spyderco or Cold Steel Knives or like any of these enthusiast sites, they'll have like these cryometal treatments that improve toughness and edge retention. That are only done on like hand knives that are very, very small, and those knives are like ludicrously expensive. And part of that is marketing, but part of it is just it's really expensive to do cryometal treatments on a bulk scale. And cheap vacuum and cheap cryo access do that. Heat rejection is a problem in space, but I'm imagining you're somewhere like the moon where you have a big heat sink. So, that gets you the cryometallurgy stuff. And you can store things like liquid air just in open pools, like because it's so cold. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do in space for materials manufacture. One of the things that gets shitty is 3D printing. A lot of the stuff we do right now is based on there being a gravitational downward direction. And so when they do 3D prints on ISS now, that's kind of exciting to me, even though they're just using like plastic to make like a custom sized wrench that is one-time use. It's cool because the kinks in 3D printing, if you work those out, you can make all kinds of really cool things out of whatever material, and then you can just vacuum vapor deposit whatever material you want on top of that and get even weirder, crazy stuff. There's a group at Caltech that makes nano trusses. It's Julia Greer, who is, if you ever have an opportunity to see her give a talk, she sometimes gives talks to the public, and she generally has clothing that is just like made of gems. I saw her give I saw her give a lecture where she was visiting and interviewing for a faculty position, and she was just wearing a vest that was all gems. And she makes her group, their claim to fame is they do a variety of nano printed structures. So for robots, how they break is important, right? Like if your limb bends, that's better than your limb snapping. If your limb crumples a little, that's better than it shattering. And we love ceramics because they're really, really strong. But like glass, like you drop it on the ground and suddenly mom's spaghetti has got shards of glass all up in it. And her group makes these little itty bitty nano trusses so that rather than shattering when you go to hit it, it kind of crumples like the crumple zone on a car, and that allows it to plastically deform and kind of stay together a lot better. And you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with that, like making body armor. And I just think they're really cool. Space metallurgy, space material science is great. And that's before you get into the things like there are just chunks of platinum in space that we could wrangle. And it's like, here is one asteroid. It has 3 times the amount of platinum that has ever been mined. Congratulations. You can do all the weird, rare metallurgy you want, and you don't have to worry about cost anymore because you have an access to platinum that is basically inexhaustible from our point of view.
So what I'm hearing is that we could make a Gundam at any point, and it's just we lack the will.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you will it, dude, then it is no dream.
That and powering it, right? Having an energy source that's dense enough to move the robot is a major problem at any sort of scale. But we do already build like really big stuff, right? There are a lot of machines out there that are the size of buildings. How else do we build skyscrapers without having a machine that is as big of a skyscraper to help put it together?
You when you talked about nano trusses and how they like enable a crumple zone for things that would otherwise shatter, I can't help but think, because like in a mech anime, when a guy gets punched by another robot and he falls down and he gets up, like the physics of that should be that the guy inside is hamburger, right? Like he's all goop.
Well,
also like I know like how machines work. Like I have a computer, and if someone were to like punch my computer, like really uppercut it so far that it gets lift and then smashes with its full weight on the ground, even if there's no pilot in the computer's fucking broken. Like whenever I see that in a mecha anime, the first punch, I'm just like, oh, all the things that connect the robot together broke now.
Well, yeah, that's the most likely thing. The technical term, Joe, that you're looking for what happens to the pilot is they're reduced to a phase of matter we call chunky salsa. They're super. Everybody inside is super. Like just moving. Like some of these, like the pilots, like are in multiple robots and they come together, and like one of them is in the hand, and it's just like anytime you move that hand, that person is just dead. Like they're just dead. So yeah, G-forces are going to kill you. It's going to be a bad time. This is why this is why the government does not actually build giant robots, right? There are a lot of things that are impractical about moving something that large with that much mass, where the momentum just ruins everything on the, all of your electronic circuits get snapped in half, and your pilot is reduced to a puddle, and you're just sad. That being said, like punching the computer thing, that's a problem that we do actually work on in material science. There are some materials actually that essentially behave as what's called a non-Newtonian fluid. And so think of a gel or a foam that when you try to compress it, the faster you do that, the harder it pushes back. And if you've ever seen people like run across pools of cornstarch and water, and then someone tries to walk across it and they just like fall in like a chump, that's what's going on there. But there's a material called, I believe it's like D03 or D30 or something like that. It's a foam that's made by a company that they wrap around phones and electronics and stuff, that when you hit it real fast, it actually undergoes a solid state phase transformation from a gel to a solid. And when that happens, it consumes a bunch of energy. And so the energy is dissipated by the material becoming hard. But because the transformation is solid state and first order, it basically moves at the sound speed of it's second order, moves at the sound speed of the material. And so you can very quickly dissipate energy from wherever would normally initiate a crack or a fracture out away from that and blunt the force that way.
The foam sounds like it's just made of Luffy, like it's just Luffy.
Fuck.
Yeah,
oh my god,
it is.
Oh my god, because Luffy, one of the things that the gum fruit gives him is he's completely immune to blunt trauma. Like, if someone shoots him with a gun, the bullet just goes blue and shoots back out because he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, this is similar. I think the people that made it like threw an iPad out of a C-130 or something like back in 2010, and there's a video of it, and like it's like working fine.
Hell yes.
Okay, so we have all this, all these capabilities that we can do, but the issue is that if such a robot were to be in combat, it would immediately fucking break when it got hit, and also the person inside would be dead. What about if we leave Gundams off the table? Could there be a weapon to rival Metal Gear? Could we make a Metal Gear, just like a smaller one, like a 10-foot tall one?
I mean, why not? Tiny robots are quite doable. People are building all kinds of terrifying industrial robots that the only reason they don't kill people is because we use appropriate social distancing from the robots and keep them in cages. Have you ever been to like an automated factory that uses a bunch of mechatronics?
You'll be shocked to hear no. I haven't.
It rules. If you ever get an opportunity to tour somewhere where they do like full fabrication with robots, the robots basically, because the robots are expensive and fabrication is like built down to a penny, every robot in an industrial setting outside of like I would not tour like a very fancy high-end factory. You want to tour like a local shop that does some CNC work with some robots, because like basically they will just build like a cage match style Thunderdome out of random odds and ends of metal to screen out and isolate the robot from where the people are, so that people don't accidentally enter the robot space and get obliterated. And then the robot will work inside this giant steel. So we're building robot prison Thunderdomes, and like when you shut down the robot, you have all these safety interlocks so that like you go inside the Thunderdome, the robot doesn't like wake up and kill you. And still people like screw it up, and there are people that are killed doing maintenance on the giant robots that build car parts.
Fuck.
But it's really cool, and it's because it's like the Rust Belt meets like the future. It's like there's like one futuristic thing, and then everything else is like as cheap as possible but strong enough to protect from the powerful robot.
And that like classic feeling of workers in danger for no reason, that's also still there.
Yeah, like there's yellow lines on the ground, and you're just like, I wonder I hope these are far enough. Are we safe here? The guy with the forklift just drove across that one. Is he going to be all right?
I hope the robot respects this line.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. 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 One thing that Joe and I both agree on is that we are completely have a balanced diet in our consumption of anime that is about exclusively boys and exclusively fighting and yelling. And there are the girls. There's only one girl in each show, and she's not really a character. And to us, that's fine and totally good. And there's no reason to expand our horizons at all, ever.
However, there are lady animes made for ladies. And here's the thing. We need help understanding what we're missing out because we're dumb as shit and we will only, if left to our own devices, watch stuff about guys powering up.
Joe, if what you're saying is true, if there is another side of anime that we need to poison ourselves with, I mean, I think it's our duty, in fact, a requirement that we have to do so. But, oh, golly, how will we ever brave this new world without a guide? We need a guide.
Mike, will you guide us, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you for asking. I will be your guide into the world of lady anime for ladies, which is also known as shojo. And that genre exists because girls cannot like action and robots and all that other, fighty, explodey boy stuff that smells like cooties and will give you cooties.
You certainly don't love Gurren Lagann.
Oh, God, no. I think it's a terrible, inscrutable show that I have absolutely zero interest in.
Yeah, when the boys talk about being homies, you have a big question mark over your head because in Japan, media can only be liked by one type of person.
Also, earlier on in the show, you guys kept saying this word, robot? Yeah, what is that? So, and things like mechs? Are you talking about, aliens or,
It's a type of Sailor Moon, I believe. Would that help you understand?
The first mainstream robot was actually a gynoid featured in the Fritz Lang film Metropolis.
Thanks, John.
So a robot lady was actually the robot, just putting it out there.
That collection of noise did not make any sense to me at all.
So, Mike, ignoring that sort of blast of chaos that just happened, what's some good lady anime out there for us, and what can it give us that our stupid shonen bullshit doesn't?
Well, I'll give you a rundown of stuff that I've been watching rather recently since I've been hiding from the corona. These series are available on Netflix or Hulu or our piracy server. I'm not paying for Crunchyroll because I don't want to spend extra money right now. But anyway, Fruits Basket. There's another version of the anime that is nice and fresh, as opposed to the one from 15 years ago. This one is about folklore and curses meeting high school slice of life stories.
So curses to me, I immediately think shonen stuff for boys. So clearly I'm an idiot for not already watching this.
Yeah, a curse to me means that someone has to fight, and that's cool.
Also, boys and girls can like cool animals, and there are many animals in Fruits Basket.
Yeah, you told us that if this cursed family gets hugged by a person of the opposite sex, they turn into an animal.
Yes, an animal from the Chinese zodiac.
They're adorable and awkward.
When they're in animal form, can they still talk and be sapient?
Yes.
Or do they just go oink oink?
No, they are sapient and they do talk in human language.
Yeah, so the hot guy turns into a talking cow, and that has to be scarring for whoever it happens to.
I don't see why this is a problem. This seems fucking awesome.
Yeah, this just sounds like a different Super Saiyan to me. That's fine to me. I like it.
There are transformations.
But yeah, there's romance, and there's a love triangle, and bishy sparkles everywhere.
Hell yeah. Sounds dope.
Okay, so I haven't watched Sailor Moon. I know it's an important foundational text for a lot of people. So, what am I missing out by having not sat through this yet?
You're missing out on a lot of wonderful, wacky adventures of girls totally kicking ass against these really dumb villains who want to take over the world via, like, pyramid schemes and, like, retail stores. They're basically the puppets of this evil queen.
Are the bad guys or seriously just, like, franchise owners?
Every single villain goes to Earth. Like, it's a Sentai series, so it's a lot like if you watch Power Rangers at all, it's like there's a villain of the week reporting to some big bad that's pulling all the puppet strings. And literally, rather than, like, show up and, like, start blowing things up, it's like, we're gonna harvest spiritual energy from people by opening a bathhouse that makes them pass out, and then we can suck their souls out. Or, like, selling lottery tickets that, like, you win, but then there's a dark, like, it's just like a bunch of different, like, business schemes. Like, just, I'm imagining a part of Tokyo where just businesses are opening and closing continuously, and every time a new business opens, you'd think people would catch on and be like, wait, is this just another one of those demon schemes to steal my vitality?
So there's demon schemers, and then the Sailor Scouts, I assume, go magical girl mode and kick their asses.
Yes, they have fun costumes, they have fun powers, and
They stop businesses, right?
yes, they stop evil businesses.
Yeah, they fight capitalism in all its forms.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the best show of all time.
Many would think so. There's a fresh new dub that is now available on Hulu, much better than the horribly censored version that we saw as kids.
Oh, and there's a man who shows up sometimes, doesn't really do anything, and gets all the credit.
Yes, and of course, the protagonist falls in love with him, and they have a weird time-traveling child with pink hair in the future.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a time travel element to it too, and reincarnation, and lesbians who in the original sanitized dub are referred to as cousins.
Which makes it weirder.
I know that. That's funny.
like, oh, they're cousins. And then it's like shots
You know how
of them
cousins
in
be.
intimate, like, proximity.
They're from Alabama.
I love sleeping in a big bed with my cousin. Normal stuff. So you also have on this list High School Girl.
No, High Score Girl.
Very close.
Well, I mean, Joe, you'd be forgiven for thinking that because this is anime.
That's
You're
true.
not going to have someone not in high school.
Yeah, I also can't read, so I apologize. So High Score Girl.
Yes, High Score Girl. It's about middle school kids, but after the time skip, they do end up in high school, but the title is High Score Girl. And it's a show that proves that, yes, you can fall in love while playing Street Fighter at the arcade.
That's good, because I wasn't sure on that. Like, I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
If you liked 16-bit games at all, especially arcade games, like, this whole series is an incredible tribute to them. Like, all of the game releases and dates are, like, tracked, like, agonizing accuracy, and, like, what games are coming out soon, like, and what Nintendo Power is doing.
Yeah, the main character basically considers it a religion.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And this is considered shojo just because it features a female protagonist and there's just a romantic element. Is that literally
I
entire...
think it actually blurs the line between shonen and shoujo, because I would see this series as appealing to both boys and girls. Because you've got the whole nostalgic gaming aspect, and then, you've got the mysterious magical rich girl who is totally a Street Fighter prodigy.
And most episodes are tournaments. Like, it's people playing tournament fighting games against each other. And, like, maybe it's a tournament where there are, like, a bunch of characters from different scenes that maybe knew each other and met in passing, and now they're all playing at this one arcade in the rain, and it's got all this tension and stuff. All the conflict resolution and tension building is just people playing video games really, really hard and expressing their love for each other by tooling people in 1v1 games.
I'm furious right now because I have just learned that gender constructs have kept me from tournaments.
Yeah, Joe, just hearing that, like, this show that blurs the line between shoujo and shonen, and it appeals to really all walks of life. I mean, if that's the case, then maybe having an extremely rigid, arbitrary system where all forms of media have to be slotted into one specific demographic to the exclusion of all others, well, well, that seems really stupid, and they wouldn't do that if it was really stupid, right? They wouldn't just do that to us if it was really stupid, right?
They did that. That was the thing that they did. I am here
that's
I'm bad news
marketing.
from the present.
So the next one on the list is one that I've actually already recommended in the Anime 101 episode because it fucking is so funny and it just kicks ass. So let's talk about it again. Ouran High School Host Club, about the beautiful high school boys, and then Haruhi, the girl who has to look like a boy and seduce all the girls.
Yes, she has to do that because she accidentally wandered into the host club room thinking it was a music room, and she broke an expensive vase, so she's got to repay the debt. And what I love about Haruhi is that she is a girl who flagrantly does not give a shit about gender norms or what people think of her appearance. I mean, she's true to her word. She pretends to be a boy so this host club can make money. And along the way, she finds friendship and love. Spoilers.
Yeah. There's also a lot of like kayfabe
phones.
stuff going on where like the way they present themselves to the women that are attending the host club, right? And like she gets to see behind the scenes about like how they're playing themselves up in different ways. And I thought that was really interesting because like a lot of high school is about representing yourself to different people in different ways, and this has like just created a construct where you get to like walk on either side of that wall.
It's about finding yourself, through these various masks that you put on.
But it doesn't have Guile giving you romantic advice, so it's a little lower than High School Girl for me.
I also love that the debt that sort of kicks the plot into gear, this breaking of the vase, like it's an amount of money that literally any other member of the host club could pay in a nanosecond and not even notice it.
So they just keep her around because it's funny? Like, they just like having debt?
It's not clear to me if, like, it's like, oh, we're letting you hang out with us because we think you're cool, or, like, you're poor, so we're gonna, like, torture you. Like,
I think that is the gist of it, because she only goes to that school because of a scholarship.
Yeah,
she's such
like,
a good
she's
student.
a poor.
Yeah.
My take is that they started it out as like, oh, you're in debt to us, and then they're just like, well, now you're one of the host clubs, you can't leave because you're one of us. And there are episodes where like she has to like go and do other stuff because she has an actual life and they don't, and they're just like, well, what the fuck? Let's go hang out with Haruhi, and they just show up where she is, and she's like, what are you doing?
That's true friendship.
Characters that like don't give a shit about like what other people think of them are always fun, because in shonen, it almost always is like a Goku situation where, like, not giving a crap means, like Goku's never washed his ass. Like, that's what it means. Like, he's just, like, a disgusting mountain man. So it's,
Terrible
like,
father.
nice to... Yeah, terrible father. He sucks. So, like, in the context of, like, it being interesting and in a high school, I'm immediately intrigued. What about this? So the next one on this list seems like a fake anime. I would say is a joke. It's called Maid-sama. To me, that seems not real. Can you tell us about it?
Oh, it's incredibly real. It was originally a manga series of 18 volumes, and the anime is very real too. 26 episodes. You can watch it on Netflix, and it's about, you guessed it, a girl in high school. She is the straight-laced class president, but by night,
Dun, dun, dun.
she is a maid at a cafe, complete with the, stereotypical sexy black and white uniform.
So this maid shit is the most inscrutable cultural practice that I've like literally... I would understand ritual cannibalism faster than this maid shit.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. It scares me, but my wife wants to watch it, so, I
mean, you don't have to
happen.
understand it. I mean,
That's
to enjoy
fair.
it.
So what does she do as this maid-sama?
Yeah, pitch the shonen power-up elements of it to us.
Well, she uses her feminine wiles to make money. Boys like money, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We're dumb as hell.
And, well, again, it kind of slides back into the girly stuff of having a romance, but on the serious side, it also explores the themes, much like we're on High School Host Club, of balancing identity and your sense of self and who you want to be versus the person that you feel that you have to be. And it's also just plain gosh darn fun.
As far as I can tell, it's putting someone in a job that is very weird and then having them interact with their peers.
Which is like a brilliant formula.
Yes, it's a fluffy slice of life in the teenage workplace kind of thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and you get all the awkwardness of like seeing someone who you know in one context and in a different one. I can kind of get it.
And we all love to be reminded of how awkward and painful our teenage years were.
Yeah, whenever I see a picture of myself when I was 16 or something I've written when I was 16, my heart like tries to stop itself.
You know, my favorite picture of young Joe is the time we were at our friend's birthday party, and John and I mummy wrapped you in a bunch of crepe paper and took Abu Ghraib-style photos of you.
I remember that, and I wish I couldn't. I had smoothed that part of my brain over with diligence.
We did a war crime on you and took pictures of it.
We thought you had consented at the time. Or you gave what we assumed was consent to do this.
Yeah, if you start wrapping the head right away, the consent part kind of gets smoothed over.
Yeah, we wrapped your head and then we put your glasses on top.
Yeah, that way you could see.
All right, so the next one on the list you have told us is the weirdest one, which immediately gets me intrigued. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this one is called Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. It's a deliciously meta anime about teenagers in an anime who fully believe that they are anime characters.
Already fucking whips.
This seems like it rewards me for all the time I have spent watching anime.
Imagine, if you will, two kids in a park, like, pretending to be Super Saiyan. And the whole thing gets, like, they're, like, wearing, you know, dumb mocking, like, none of them have real costumes, so they have, like, clothes that they've makeshift made, and they've got, like, an umbrella they're using as a sword or whatever, right? And, like, they're doing an anime fight. And then, like, it is an anime fight. But, like, they also show you intercuts of them just being dumb and fighting each other, like, IRL, as, like, normal people pretending. And then also there's just, like, all this, like, incredible high-budget animation of, like, giant beams and robots and swords and transformation sequences that are all just, like, happening in their head. It's incredible.
This reminds me a lot of Keep Your Hands Off Isaacan, except when they're doing it, it's because they are literally thinking up, what am I gonna put in my next anime that we're gonna make? This is just pure fucking nerd shit, which is perfect, because that's my life.
Yeah, well, and it also, like, there's parts where it gets dangerous, right? Because people are, like, doing stuff that is a little risky, right? As part of this whole escapade.
Like they're actually going to jump off a building?
Well, they kind of do, in some parts.
Yeah, like, rappelling off the side of things is definitely a thing that happens, and, like, people getting
and, like,
hurt.
climbing up and down, you know, your own apartment building to visit your neighbors.
Like, going into restricted areas that will have treasure hidden in them.
Fuck.
And it's, like, actually
playing
just,
near
like,
power lines. Or down by the canal.
Incredible. Like, I also like this because it's like a slice of life, and then it spoon feeds you cool anime fights, like, on accident.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, underneath, you know, these kids pretending, well, believing that they are these awesome anime characters, like, underneath that, you've got stuff like exploring the, you know, very serious and complicated world of parental bereavement and family relationships that evolve while you grow up. And there's also a slow burn romance, which is kind of different from a lot of the other shows that center on romance. This one kind of plays around with different anime romance tropes in the fact that it also explores limerence versus real love. And it also, you know, says a lot about imagination and where the line of fantasy and real life kind of blur.
And on that my favorite bit that really got me like excited about it was there's a part in I think the first or second episode where one of the characters puts in the Konami code on a soda machine, and like there's this cutscene of like time to hack special thing going on, but it's like this isn't gonna do anything. But then they get 2 sodas for the price of 1, and are like, "Behold my power."
Also, this show has the very important subplot of showing the audience the very complicated logistics of setting up an official after-school club.
Yeah, if you're like, how does the
love
host
that
club
shit.
become a thing in Orange School Host Club? This show will tell you all about how you get a club in a Japanese school.
There's one thing I fucking love. It's the episode where there's like the 2 people who like the weird thing that the club is about, and they have to like hunt through the rest of the students and like bully 3 other people into getting hyped about this stupid thing no one cares about because you need 5 kids to have an official club.
That's how it becomes about acting and napping. Competitive napping and acting club.
Hell yeah. And then you get 5 kids, but then you also have to find a teacher who believes in the club enough to be the sponsor. I love it. That's the good
definitely
shit.
reminded me of why we played Magic the Gathering at Speech Team rather than forming our own magic club.
Yeah, honestly, I think that there could be a spin-off sequel set like a few years into the future about the napping club just in and of itself, because it is that awesome.
Hell yeah. So the last anime on this list is one that sounds like it's a fucking porno. It sounds like it's pervert shit. It is called Toilet Bound Hanako-kun.
So my first question is, how dare you?
Keep it together.
Oh god. Gonna have to edit that out.
So please reassure us that this isn't a crime against humanity, because those words I'm seeing, well, first of all, it starts with a rough one. So what's going on here?
Okay, so this series is about a teen girl. Okay, so I know I'm kind of like going off on a wild tangent now. All of a sudden I'm talking about teen girls, but anyway, this teen girl becomes the friend and employee of a demon that she met in her school's bathroom. I mean, enough said. I mean, that...
All you have to do is put a demon in something, and it's like part of the plot, and I'm like 80% invested.
And it's very not horny.
Yeah.
Like it sometimes approaches horny, and it like admonishes anyone who might try to be horny.
Yes, more of this, please. Oh my god.
How do you feel about fights?
Positive.
Just the most unending well of support for them.
Well, because there's a trash tier toilet demon. That doesn't mean that that's the only evil spirit in this universe, clearly. And if there are multiple evil spirits, there are people who are trying to destroy these evil spirits. And so you have fights with other demons and like eldritch abominations, and then also holy people who like have lineages and like crazy long stories about how their grandfather was cursed to destroy all demons or whatever, and now they've got to go to this high school and fight this toilet guy, and then they get tooled on because they're not ready.
Do they do training?
Oh, yeah, there's training.
Oh,
and a lot of the training involves cleaning the bathroom.
Mike, I gotta ask you. John has been saying a lot of shit about fighting in toilets. This sounds just like one of the fighting shows that I watch on Shonen Jump app. How come this is, as you say, for girls? Because only one type of person can like a piece of media. What makes this for girls?
Well, because the protagonist is a girl who is desperate for a boyfriend.
Is that all it takes?
Well, I'd say in Japan, kind of, yeah.
Well, that is the instigating argument, right? Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't like she's like, "Oh, toilet demon, please give me a job." It was like, "I would like a boyfriend. How are you going to work that?"
Yeah, you
for
see,
me?"
this toilet demon, when summoned, will give you a wish, and her wish was for a boyfriend. But he was like, no, not going to do that.
Yeah,
Let's
he
go
was
on
like-
crazy adventures.
Yeah, not really willing to give her exactly what she wanted because he's like, "No, this is dumb," and also maybe I'm a little into you, but maybe I just want a friend. And so I'm going to kind of give you what you want, but you're going to screw it up, and then you're going to be cursed, but I'm going to save you from being cursed, and then you're going to have to work for me in exchange. So it's like a broken vase type scenario, except she'll get turned into a carp. Is that?
Something like
Something
that.
like
Some
that.
sort of like, well, it's a fish.
It's a fish, yeah. She'll get turned. Basically, wacky hijinks happen, and she uses the magic wrong and is going to get turned into a fish. But instead, rather than getting turned into a fish, she can just like clean this bathroom that this demon is bound to. Which, as far as I can tell, means it's like his house, not that he is stuck there forever.
He just likes to chill.
Yeah,
like
I mean, but he was trapped in the toilet before.
Yeah, she lets him, like, he can go out with her, is that?
Mm-hmm.
But he can't, like, just...
Yeah,
hang
we're
out
only
on
a
his
few
own.
episodes in.
And then there's, like, a Feywild type scenario, but we haven't really explored that
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
it's kind of like the exact opposite of another series on Netflix called Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? But that's for another episode.
Yeah, that sounds even more like perversion.
That is very perverted.
That is very horny.
Yeah, I will never watch this. This is unacceptable.
You would hate it. I came in, my wife was watching it, I'm like, wow, this is horny. And misogynist.
So
I'll give anything a fair try.
So to wrap up this segment, the framing device was that we don't ever look at any shojo or josei manga or anime. That's actually a fucking lie. I just finished reading 6 volumes of Princess Jellyfish. It whips ass. But if that framing device were true, I think that we would be super fucking convinced to try this shit out.
I'm really sold on Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. That sounds like something I would for sure not encounter, because how I get recommendations is I go to Google and I say, like Dragon Ball, and then I hit enter.
And I just want to say to you two, Mike and John, something that I think you would really fucking like, an anime that me and my wife have been watching, is Chihaya Furu, which is an anime about a high school girl, I know, who is obsessed with Karuta, which is a Japanese card game about poems and slapping.
Ooh. Wait, what kind of slapping? Like slapping the poems? Or
the cards have poems written on them.
Okay.
Someone reads the first part of the poem. The second half of a poem is on the card. You got to slap the card with the right second half of a poem.
If it's an erotic poem, can you slap your partner with it?
The poems are not erotic, but it is like the fact that they're playing this fucking card game is irrelevant, because what it really is about just the most slow burn sexual tension that you'll ever see, with this fucking girl and the boy who taught her Karuta, and then he moved away, and she kept training for years and years to play with him eventually when they became older. But then she goes to his house and he's depressed and he's like, I don't play Karuta anymore.
Oh my
but he's
god,
also
it's a
hot now.
version of High Score, girl.
Oh my gosh, yes, we have to watch this.
Yeah, it fucking whips. You'll love it.
Incredible.
Anyway, segment over.
And I was just being tongue-in-cheek with the whole lady anime stuff for ladies, because that's just all marketing, and marketing is bullshit and a tool of the capitalist system. So just fuck it, like whatever you want to like, try whatever anime you want to try.
We're the anime sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crimes way.
John and Mike, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Again, John, thank you for your second appearance, our first ever repeat. And Mike, thank you for joining us and telling us about your sicko mindset. It was delightful.
Well, I'm glad to share. Thank you so much for having me.
Is there anything you want to plug, or is there any good stuff or anything?
I am all about people sending me dumb questions about anime science. And so if anybody wants to, I have a Twitter. I don't really post a lot because I feel like posting is the dark mana, and
Correct.
I try to avoid engaging it, but I imagine if people ask me dumb anime science questions on Twitter, I will use Twitter in a pure way. So if people want to get a hold of me, they can reach me at failanalyst. And if you have anything that exploded that you weren't expecting to explode, you can also hit me there, and I can maybe help you out with whatever went wrong.
Yeah, I am also on the Tweeter Motron. I am at MikeDrop711, and I attempt to be funny and usually fail.
Hey, that's just like us.
Yeah. Our life is flailing online.
Birds of a feather.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was delightful. This whips. And thank you for sharing the sicko mindset with us. I am
Yes.
Joe Anderson, an anime sicko.
I'm Tom Harrison, an anime sicko.
I'm John Hasier, an anime sicko.
I'm Mike Hasier, also an anime sicko.
Thank you all for being with us today. And that's all for us. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye. Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.